Hello and welcome back to Behind the Scenes of Your Career. My name is Jessie Wilkie. I am the owner and founder of Your Careers, where we help you to rebuild your confidence as a professional to land better jobs and salaries. Today with us, we have Anaris Gonzalez. She is a human resources professional, and we are so excited to dive into a wonderful conversation as to how to prepare yourself for a confident interview. So without further ado, if you could help me in welcoming Anaris Gonzalez. Anaris, thank you so much for being here. Could you give us a little bit of information about yourself, your background, your passion in HR? We're so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessie. It's really an honor to be here today. As you said, my name is Anaris Gonzalez. I've been in the HR space for a little over 5 years in the areas of talent acquisition, HR, employee engagement, and it's definitely been a wonderful journey. I have been mostly within the hospitality and tourism industry, and my career goes back to my time at FIU, so go Panthers, and I pursued my undergraduate studies in business management, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. Initially, I thought maybe finance, econ, and then took some HR courses and quickly realized that it aligned very well with my passion for people, strategy, psychology, and of course, business. So I decided to pursue the HR industry and absolutely love and have loved my experience, every single encounter, every single HR professional that I've connected with. I'm very excited to be here today and share a little bit more about my experience and everything that I've gone through.
Well, we're so glad that you're here. And yes, everyone, I think, has been feeling the effects of COVID one way or another, whether it's working from home when they've never had to work from home, or being laid off from a career that they've had for years, trying to figure out how to pivot into something new if that's where they're at. And I think to have your expertise in not only talent acquisition in the HR world, but also as an applicant right now is going to be extremely vital. I wanted to actually also touch on your background in psychology. That's basically what HR is. I have a background in psychology as well, and I love that because a lot of what we do at Your Careers is a lot of inner work, right? Is mastering the mind in order to show up confident in your application processes, in your interviewing skills. And once you land that job, how do you show up confidently in your skill sets to be able to master that 90 days and beyond? So with all of that said, I wanted to ask you, and I have my notes, wanted to ask you, during this time of COVID, I know you and I have spoken a little bit off screen about the multiple applications you've had to fill out, in addition to the multiple interviews that you've had to show up for, probably more than you've been used to. And so how do you show up for them? And also, are there any major takeaways that you've kind of gathered from going through this experience through COVID and the multiple interviews that you've attended?
So it's definitely been quite a journey, and in hindsight, I've had so many interviews, so many conversations. A lot of them don't pan out to anything concrete, but now today I realize that they've all been worth it. I truly believe in the power of connections, of building your network. So if you've had multiple conversations and multiple interviews that don't land you the job, that's okay. But that's not something that I knew after I was laid off. I was feeling very clouded. I wasn't really sure where I was at mentally, physically. I mean, the world is going through so much right now, and definitely you think you have it all together. You have goals in place for the entire year, and all of a sudden that's ripped out of you, and you have to find a new plan and a new route. So definitely some takeaways after some interviews is definitely take the time to debrief after each and every interview. It's not meant for you to showcase perfection. Interviews are really meant to get to know the real you. Recruiters and interviewers want to know who you are. A lot of companies hire for cultural fit and personality. A lot of the technical skills you can teach. So definitely stay true to yourself and know your worth. Think of your accomplishments. That's actually another takeaway, accomplishments. I didn't realize the value, the kind of projects that I would work on in my previous organizations until after these interviews. After being asked several questions, it really triggered me to think back and say, wow, I can't believe that I had accomplished that. So in the midst of this madness and everything that we're going through, we tend to forget our value. We tend to forget everything that we've done, everything that we've accomplished, whether it be educational, whether it be a major project that you were involved in your former employer. So definitely take a second to debrief and be proud of where you are today and everything that you've accomplished. And then lastly, I think I touched upon this already, but stay true to you and be yourself throughout every single interview. If you're applying to a different industry, don't try to change who you are to be a fit within that organization. If it's meant to be for you, it will be. If that door closes, another one will open. So definitely stay true to yourself and be who you are, and the right opportunity will come along.
I love the first point that you made. I just wanted to stop the interview right there about the fact that interviews are not about showcasing perfection. I think that's brilliant that you said that, because a lot of us, I think the reason why we get so nervous before an interview is because we're trying to showcase perfection. We're trying to show up as this perfect professional, and in the same breath, perhaps in trying to do that, mold ourselves to a professional that aligns with the company and the people sitting in the room, when maybe that's not who we truly are, right? And so a lot of the conversation we have with our clients on our consultation calls is really not only paying attention to those accomplishments that you talked about, right? Or reminding yourself of them, because sometimes we forget about them, right? But also remembering who you are and what you really want out of your career, right? Because there is very little in the corporate world that we can actually hold on to and say, this is mine, because we are constantly trying to evolve as professionals in an effort to continue our career growth. But when we step foot into that interview, confident in who we are, confident in our accomplishments, and also confident in what we are looking for a potential employer, you're going to, even like you said, even if that interview does not transpire into your next career move, it's going to allow you to walk out of that interview knowing that you put yourself out on the table and not what they wanted to see, right? I love that.
Add to that,
yeah, absolutely.
Every interview is really an opportunity to better yourself. You will be asked different questions. Everybody's style is different. So take it as an opportunity to groom your interviewing skills, to take a second look at your resume and say, wow, I can't believe I missed that. I want to add that to my resume, or maybe I want to remove that from my resume. So take it as an opportunity for growth. Even if it doesn't go well, you will take something out of it.
I love that. And I think that's major in your advice to debrief, because it's true. Sometimes questions come up in interviews that we didn't even think to ask ourselves. And it reminds us of an accomplishment that we had in the past that we're not currently showcasing. And so I love that. What I also wanted to ask you is, when you're going through all of these interviews, how do you prepare yourself to be confident to walk into those interviews?
So I definitely spend a couple of hours researching the company, its history, its culture, developmental opportunities. Are they involved in the community? I explore social media platforms, LinkedIn. If I happen to have an agenda of who I'm meeting with, definitely do some research on the individual, understand their career trajectory, how long they've been with the company. Definitely some things that you want to know before you come into the interview. I do review my resume as well, and I study it. A lot of people think that it's a waste of time, but it's not. You have to know your resume. very well, because recruiters might ask you something, a bullet point that you don't remember of, and you have to know how to adequately explain and provide examples, if you will. And definitely dress for success, even in this new virtual world. It's very important, and first impressions do matter. So even if you're doing yoga pants, make sure that you do a nice top, a nice blouse, and you're sharp and ready to go. And definitely taking time to breathe, align, and focus on your purpose, where you are today, and be present and enjoy the journey. And then also keeping in mind that you are also interviewing the other party. So have some questions ready. I always recommend at least 3 to 5 questions based on your research. You will potentially have some questions to ask them. And chances are that the recruiter will ask you at the end, do you have any questions for me? And you don't want to end the call to say, no, I don't have any further questions. There's always a question about culture, about fit, team dynamic, finances, growth, stability. Come up with at least 3 questions. And that's really how I prepare best for my interviews.
I think those are all major nuggets of wisdom in regards to preparing. I think people don't take enough time to prepare. We like to show up and wing our interviews. And that's fantastic. But even for the people who are very good at thinking on their feet, when you do not prepare, even when it comes down to looking through your resume, right, and just being able to remind yourself of what you actually put on that piece of paper that might spark a question for the hiring manager, is going to be able to allow you to articulate better, right, to allow you to explain yourself better, and to really showcase probably your most unique selling points throughout the interview. And I love what you said about enjoying the ride. I think, again, a lot of the reason why we show up to interviews nervous is because it feels like we're trying to pass this test and we don't really know the answers, and it's hard to study for this test because we don't really know what the questions are. So how can we know what the answers are? And reality is if you're enjoying the ride and you're showing up to enjoy the conversation, practice your interviewing skills while understanding and being confident in what you're bringing to the table as a professional, I think it eases the nerves going into that conversation because you're able to really enjoy it. These interviews are becoming more like conversations. And so being able to develop those skill sets and being able to hold a conversation and keep a conversation going in a positive direction and enjoying the ride is really going to be pertinent in showing up confident to being able to get through that interview when so many of us show up nervous over this test that we're trying to master by the end of the conversation. So I think it was a great point that you made. What I wanted to ask you lastly is, and this is the major component, I think in COVID, the messaging has been, stay positive, we're going to get out of this, right? Or the messaging has been, see the opportunities, look for the opportunities, opportunities show up for the people who see them. And the reality is we just talked about this on our social media platform, is it's important as a professional for us to take time to honor our feelings. And you know what? Sometimes those feelings are not that I'm feeling uber confident today, or not that I'm excited about where I'm at sitting on my couch having submitted 100 applications and getting no callbacks. Sometimes we do feel a little under the weather, right? And so when you feel that way, because I'm assuming you've been there, when you feel that way, how do you pick yourself back up?
That's a great question. So initially, I believe I mentioned this earlier. Initially, I was feeling very clouded. I didn't really know where I was headed. At some point, I even considered, am I on the right path? What have I done? What am I doing today? I'm not being productive. I've been at home for the past 3 months. what do I do next? So initially I started applying to every single job on LinkedIn, every single job on Indeed, and clearly it wasn't the best strategy. So I knew I had to do something for my own well-being, my health, and mental clarity. So I developed a daily routine, similar to my 9 to 5. And I said, I need to get up every morning. I need to get dressed as I would before pre-COVID, and have a daily routine. And so I created a day that I would not spend my entire day on job boards. And so in the morning time, I would take some time to exercise, meditate, look through LinkedIn postings, apply to a job or two if they are aligned with my next career move and my goals. That was very important to me. And then definitely take some time to prep for any upcoming interviews that I had. Something that was very important to me and is still very important to me is reconnecting with former colleagues, with peers, mentors, and friends and family. Don't be afraid to lean on your support system during these difficult times. There are a lot of us out there that are facing these challenging and rough times. So it's very important that you stay connected with everybody that's been there for you, and continues to be there for you. So if you just need to pick up the phone, have a conversation, and have a venting session with your best friend, with your former colleague, do it. Do it. I guarantee that it's definitely going to make you feel better. And you'd be surprised at how many people reach out to you as well for support, because we have ups and downs, right? Some days you'll feel very positive. Other days you're going to feel very depressed. You're going to have self-doubt, and you have to find ways to bring yourself back up and remember your worth and your accomplishments. And definitely focus on personal development. You know, this forced pause has been a gift for many of us, and we don't see it clearly on some days, but when you start to think about it, this is precious time that we have available now that we can focus on personal development activities, whether it be taking that test that you've been pushing out because you don't have the time to study for, whether it be taking that family trip that you never took because you didn't have enough vacation days, or even getting into fitness and having a healthy lifestyle. Whatever it may be for you, take this time and focus on those priorities, because chances are we won't have this pause again in our lifetime. So enjoy the moment and enjoy the ride. And when you're having difficult days, remember to pick yourself back up. Remember your worth, how far you've come in your career, in your education, and everything you've accomplished. And don't be afraid to reach out to others for help. That's crucial.
When you say having a morning routine or a daily routine, I love that. A lot of us don't realize, I think there's a negative connotation to the word structure, right? People are like, oh no, be flexible, right? Just go with the punches, roll with the punches. And reality is we function more optimally as human beings when we have some type of structure or routine in our life. And so being able to get up and get dressed, or saying, hey, in the morning, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have lunch, and after lunch, this is where I'm headed in regards to the rest of my day, gives you a sense of accomplishment. A lot of the reason why we have careers, right, is because we want to feel a sense of purpose, a sense of accomplishment. And for a lot of us, not having that career right now is creating an element of loss or confusion, in the sense of, well, what am I doing? What am I doing here? What am I offering right now that is developing either purpose for myself or creating impact for somebody else? And having something like a routine is going to give you the feeling of, I checked this off the list, I did this today, and I can feel validated and I can feel valued for what I brought to the table today. And so I love that. And also reaching out to connections or people that you haven't been able to, being able to allow people to show up for you because you're humble enough and brave enough to say, hey, I need help. And a lot of us don't allow people to show up for us, or we don't allow ourselves to show up for somebody else because we're too prideful to say, I'm struggling right now. And I think there's a beauty in being able to create connections upon saying, hey, I need help. Are you going through this too? And automatically creating, like you said, a support system for yourself where when you're having those bad days, you can shoot over a text or pick up the phone call or chat someone on LinkedIn that you've developed a connection with and saying, hey, I'm having a hard time with XYZ. Do you have any ideas or advice on how to get through this today? And I really think that's so amazing. We won't have this pause probably again in our life, and having an opportunity to focus on what we can do to develop ourselves and develop relationships that we probably haven't even had a chance to develop in the last 5-10 years because we've been so focused on our career and what the next move is and how I'm growing tomorrow or the next day or a year from now. I think is extremely beneficial because of the opportunity that we have to focus on ourselves or focus on those connections. We're actually going to be able to show up in the job market a better and more whole professional by being able to focus on these other tangible and emotional areas of our life that we probably have had to either put on the back burner or put on hold. So I think those were amazing, amazing points that you brought up, and something all of our listeners need to hear during this time, because it's not easy. It's not easy waking up and saying, hey, I'm going to do this today, or I'm going to get dressed today and not stay in my PJs, and I'm going to do something productive. So it's very admirable that you've been able to do that during this time.
And I definitely want to also mention that this is a time of personal growth. You may not be showing up to a physical job. You may not have the 9 to 5, but you are working on you. You are developing your relationships. You're focusing on personal development. So take this time and really see the positive of it. You are working towards a better you. And whenever you land that great opportunity in the future, you will be a better version of yourself. So always keep that in mind. I personally, it's helped me a ton. And if that's okay with you, I also want to talk about rejection emails.
Yes, please.
Especially to piggyback on the confidence side. So when I receive a rejection email, I remember that the initial stages of the layoff period, I was feeling very down. I started to have a lot of self-doubt after I received a rejection email or a rejection call, and started to wonder, why not? What's missing? What did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? And I've been reading a lot of articles online and listening to podcasts, and a rejection email is really a redirection. So don't take it as a rejection that something is wrong with you. It's really just a redirection to something that's better out there. So keep that in mind whenever you receive a rejection email. And I always like to think, I'm going to think about this for 15 minutes. I'm going to let it bother me. I'm going to cry about it for 15, whatever it is. And then I'll get over it. And it's helped me, and it's worked for me and for my friends that are going through a similar situation. So if you're ever feeling that you are not worthy, that your experience is not valuable enough, that you didn't meet the requirements, let it sink in for at least 15 minutes. Try to think about it. Speak to your partner, speak to a friend about it, how you're feeling. Let it go after 15 minutes and focus on what's next. Where's my next opportunity? Who's my next interviewer? And reshift your focus to something more positive.
Honoring your feelings is something that I am so, so passionate about, because I think, again, there's this whole movement of positive vibes only, right? And that's lovely on paper, but reality is that we don't allow ourselves to grow and understand why we're feeling certain things if we're constantly pushing them away because they're technically not positive. There's this thought process of there's good feelings versus bad feelings, or there's you should feel this way or you shouldn't feel this way. And reality is every feeling that we have is pertinent information telling us what's valuable to us, what is important to us. And so when we feel bummed about getting a rejection email, that shows us that A, we were really, really passionate about landing that job. B, our career is important to us. C, we want to provide value in a company. And none of that is wrong. Every bit of having that feeling is absolutely aligned with who you are as a person. So honoring that feeling and then using it to redirect your next step is going to be, I think, a major, major asset. If we learn how to do it now, we're going to be able to utilize that, as we said, in our future professional endeavors. And I think that's a major asset or a skill set to develop right now while we can. Before we send you on your way, because this conversation has been absolutely phenomenal, what I'd like to do is ask you if you have anything that you would like to share with our audience, whether it's on topic, off topic, something you've learned during this time that you think would be of value to our listeners.
Absolutely. I definitely say to enjoy and maximize this forced pause. Be present, pay attention to where you are, how you're feeling, and make every moment count. Dream big, dream bigger than you've ever imagined, and stay positive and trust and enjoy the journey. The right opportunity will come along, and even if it might take some time, that's okay. Enjoy this time to the best of your abilities and make the best out of it.
Well, we really, really appreciate you being on here today. Thank you so much for joining us. For everyone listening, again, this was Anaris Gonzalez. She is an amazing talent acquisition and human resources professional. You've provided so many nuggets of wisdom today, and I'm so excited that we brought you on. So thank you so much for that. For anyone who is looking to work with us at Your Careers, you can find us at www.yourcareers.com. In addition, we're also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to our channel as well as stay tuned for our upcoming podcast. Thank you again for everyone who joined us today. And remember, this is your career. Thank you.